Hello everyone, welcome back to the session. So in this class we are going to discuss about the short answer questions in the musculo-skeletal system and neural control and coordination in the second year. Okay, so we are going to discuss two chapters in today's class itself. Okay, because less weightage area. First question will be this from the muscular system. Describe the structure of synovial joint with the help of the NEET labeled diagram. So we can split this question into two. Okay, so we can split this question into two. The first type will be the structure of synovial joint, and the second part definitely you have to draw a diagram because the question demands the diagram. So if they are not mentioning any diagram in the question, you don't want to answer the question. Okay, but they have explicitly mentioned with the help of the NEET labeled diagram, so definitely you have to draw a diagram. Okay, so first you should know what is synovial joint, and then we can describe detailedly the structure of synovial joint. Okay, so the first subheading will be the synovial joint. So generally the synovial joint is a freely movable joint. Okay, so it is a freely movable joint with the bone separated by a synovial cavity. Okay, so it is a joint. What is the point of having the joints? So we are having a bones. The two bones are joined together with the help of this joints, and that particular joint we are having three major types of joints. So the first joint will be the synovial joint. So this joint is freely movable joints. Okay, I can keep my hand like this, keep my hand like this. It is freely movable. Okay, so these bones are separated by a cavity which is present in this joint. A fluid is called as a synovial fluid in the synovial cavity. Okay, now, so in this synovial joint, they are having a synovial capsule. So in the synovial capsule, they are having an outer layer and an inner layer. So in the outer layer, it is a dense fibrous tissue. Okay, so it is a dense fibrous tissue. Resist stretching. Okay, it resists the stretching, forms the ligaments, continues with the periosteum. So first, you should know what are all the basic idea in the muscular system. So there is a bone. Okay, so there is a bone, there is a joint, there is a muscle. Okay, all together we are going to discuss detailedly in the will see in the muscular system, muscle chapter. Okay, so this muscle to bone. Okay, so if the bone is connected with the bone, we are calling them as a tendon. Okay, with the help of the tendon. If the bone is attached with the muscle, we'll call them as a ligament. Okay, so here there is a bone. The bone is getting connected with the muscle. Okay, so that is what that is a forming cell. Ligaments continues with the periosteum. Periosteum is a covering of the bone. Okay, so the inner layer here it will be, so outer layer will be the dense fibrous tissue. It resists stretching. It will not be that much flexible. But the inner layer, it is areolar tissue. Okay, there is nothing present in this tissue. That is areolar tissue. That is the one responsible for the synovial fluid. Okay, this fluid is very important in case of the knee joint. Okay, synovial fluid, that is considered as a lubricant. Right, what are all the other features of the synovial joint? Okay, so there is a cartilage. The first important cartilage will be this articular cartilage. Okay, so this cartilage, it is it is considered as a bone cap. Okay, so it covers the bone's ends. Okay, end of the bone will be covered by this articular cartilage. Why it has to covered with this articular cartilage only with respect to this end? Because the end will not there has to avoid the collapse. Okay, to reduce the friction between two bones, definitely the end of the bone has to be covered with a cartilage so that it will be avoid the friction. Okay, now this synovial cavity. So this synovial cavity, so we have studied this in this joint. The inner layer is areolar tissue. Okay, so in this areolar tissue is the one responsible for the synovial fluid. So the synovial fluid will be present in the synovial cavity. Okay, so that is what a synovial cavity contains a synovial fluid. Okay, now the ligaments. So what is the point of having this ligaments? Strengthen and stabilize this joint. Okay, so joint has to be stabilized first. Okay, if this joint will not be properly connecting the two bones, it will not the actions, the contraction, relaxation of muscles will not be in proper state. Okay, so that is why the ligaments are very important. Now what are all the synovial joints? Okay, so synovial joints, so there are having different types of synovial joints. Ball and socket joint in the knee joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, gliding joint, condyloid joint, saddle joint. So these are all the types of the synovial joint. Okay, so what we have discussed, the basic things about the synovial joint, it is flexible in nature. Okay, so consider this is the bone. Okay, so this is the bone, and this bone is covered by the cartilage, which is called as the articular capsule or articular cartilage. Okay, so inside that we can see this ligament. Okay, so this is the synovial cavity. So in this cavity we can see the synovial fluid, and another thing here, it will be the another cartilage will be there, that is called as the hyaline cartilage. The articular cartilage will be protect the bone from outside, and the hyaline cartilage will protect the bone from the inside. Okay, so this is the inner membrane. Okay, so this is an inner membrane and this is an outer membrane. Okay, so that is periosteum. So okay, that is called as a periosteum. So these are all the parts of the synovial joint. Okay, clear now? So you have to draw the picture carefully. Okay, the picture is very important. Now the second question will be, so that's all about the muscular system. Okay, that is only one question with respect to that chapter. Now we are going to start a new chapter called the neural control and coordination. Again, this is a short answer question. So the first question will be, the draw a labeled diagram of the TS of the spinal cord of the man. Okay, so this is a TS. It is not a cross section. See, just listen to me. What are all the spinal cord? This is the TS of the spinal cord. See, we can see the white matter. Okay, so this is what a white matter of the spinal cord. Okay, so this is a white matter, and this gray color, this is called as a gray matter. Okay, so two important points are very important. So white matter and the gray matter. Okay, so in the gray matter you can shade with the pencil itself. Okay, so now after that we can see this dorsal horn. Dorsal horn is nothing but an upper side. Okay, so the ventral horn is present in the lower side. So the dorsal horn and the ventral horn will be present. So that's all about the four parts. Now after that there is a posterior median sulcus. Okay, there is a posterior median sulcus is there, and there is a central canal, and this is the dorsal root of the spinal nerve, dorsal root of the ganglion. This is called as a spinal nerves. Okay, so inside the spinal cord, the spinal nerves is also present there. Okay, so this is the ventral root of the spinal cord. So this is considered as a dorsal root of the spinal cord, and this is called as a ventral root of the spinal cord, and here it will be the anterior median fissure. Okay, so it's like a folding. So these are all this is sufficient to get a mark. Okay, so draw a NEET diagram. Okay, now the second question will be, give an account of the retina of the human eye. Okay, so retina is a part of the human eye. Now what are all the specifications, characteristic features of the retina which is present in the human eye? Okay, so first you should know this retina will be the inner coat of the eye. Okay, this is the inner coat. The first point will be this inner coat, and it has a pigmented epithelium. Okay, so here we are having a pigmented epithelium that is non-visual, and neural portion will be visual. See, in the retina we have considered this retina will be the inner coat. So in this inner coat they are having an epithelium, and that epithelium will be the pigmented epithelium. This pigmented it is not visualized. Okay, so it is non-visual, but it has a neural portion, and that portion is visual. Okay, now what is meant by this pigmented epithelium? Okay, so this pigmented epithelium which is present between this choroid and the neural retina. Okay, so we have studied this, there is a pigmented epithelium. This pigmented epithelium is located between this choroid and the neural retina. Okay, between these two structure there is a pigmented epithelium. Now they contains a melanin. Okay, so that is why, because of the presence of the melanin pigment, this epithelium is called as a pigmented epithelium, because melanin is responsible for this pigment. Okay, that is the one responsible for absorbing the excess light. Okay, so this is very 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 important here. Okay, why it is considered as a pigmented epithelium? Because of the secretion of the protein called the melanin. And why the melanin has been secreted here? To absorb the excess light, as it is pigmented. Now the neural retina. So in the neural retina, three layers of neurons will be there. Okay, so that is why the name neural retina. So there is a three important layers of the neurons. The first part will be this photoreceptor layer, very very important in the eye. Okay, so photoreceptor layer and bipolar cell layer. So bipolar, so in the nerves, in the neurons, we are having three different types of neurons. Okay, unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron and multipolar neuron. Okay, so multipolar neuron, in the sense one axon many dendrites, is called as a multipolar neurons. Okay, bipolar, in the sense one dendrites and one axons, that is called as a two dendrites and one axon, is called as a bipolar. Unidendrites means one dendrites and one axon, is called as an unipolar. The bipolar neurons will be present in the optical nerve, that is the neural retina. Okay, so there we are having a bipolar cell layer. Okay, the ganglion cell layer, that is the axons form the optic nerve. So the ganglion cell layer, this is the cell layer responsible for forming the optic nerve. Okay, and that nerve is nothing but a bipolar neuron. Now coming back to this photoreceptor layer. So photoreceptor layer, we have two important structures. Okay, two important cells, that is rod cells and cone cells. Okay, rod cells is responsible for they are responsible for this differentiating the black and white color. Okay, so the black color and white color can be differentiated by the cells called the rod cells. Okay, and the colors, the like violet. Now all the visual colors can be visible by the cells present in the cones. Okay, the cone cells, they are responsible for differentiating the visual colors. In the rod cells are responsible for differentiating the black and white color. Okay, so these rod cells, they are containing a protein which is called as a rhodopsin. The cone cells, which is responsible for the protein, the cone cells contain the protein called as the iodopsin. Okay, so this iodopsin is also called as a photopsin. So this rhodopsin, so the rod cells, they are containing a protein which is called as a rhodopsin. They are the function in the low light. Okay, the function in the low light, which means what? They are not having any visible range, that is in the visual range. The wavelength will be different. Okay, so that low light is called as a scotopic vision during the night time. Okay, scotopic vision. And this cones are responsible, they are having a protein called as an iodopsin. It is also called as a photopsin. They function in the daylight. Okay, the daylight, so they are responsible for differentiating the colors. Okay, red, blue, green, all these colors. Okay, so these are all the three important layers in the neural retina. Now the fourth important point will be the macula lutea. Okay, so this is another important thing. This is called as the yellow spot. Okay, so the yellow spot in our eye will be the macula lutea. Okay, now this is the center for posterior retina. So the retina, the posterior retina is called as a macula lutea, that is called as an yellow spot. So another thing, there is an important structure called the fovea centralis. Okay, so fovea centralis is like a depression. Okay, the depression present in the macula, that is called as a fovea centralis, and they are having cone cells only, responsible for sharp central vision. So you should know this yellow spot, they are having only the cone cells which is responsible for our vision. Sharp central vision, this is the one taken by this macula lutea, which is considered as an yellow spot, and this is the center for the posterior retina. Now the another part will be this optic disc. This optic disc is called as the blind spot. Okay, so this is a blind spot, the site where optic nerve exists, no photoreceptors, hence no image formed. Okay, see, this is the site where the optic nerve exists. Okay, so where the optic nerve, the exit point of the optic nerve is considered as an optic disc, and that spot is called as the blind spot, which means you should know that there will be no photoreceptors. As there are no as there will be no receptors to receive the light, there will be no image formed there. Okay, so that is why we are calling them as the blind spot, right? Now next, give an account for the retina of the eye. So the shape of the retina, they are having a rod cells. Okay, they are having a rod cell. So these cells is called as the rod cells. Okay, rod cells. And so you should know these are all the pigmented epithelium back of the eye. So these are all the pigmented epithelium, that is nothing but an epithelial layer. Okay, so these are all the photoreceptor layer. So all these layer is considered as a photoreceptor layer. Now here it is a bipolar cell layer, and this layer is called as a ganglion cell layer. Okay, so these are all the important parts of the retina. Now, the third question will be this: give an account of the synaptic transmission. Okay, so you should, before that you should know the structure of the neuron. Okay, so here we can, this is the cell body. In the cell body we are having a dendrites. Okay, so in the dendrites, so we are having, in the cell body we are having a nucleus. In the nucleus there is a small part of granules. That granules is called as a Nissal's granules, and this is the one this cell body is continuous with a structure called the axon, and it will be end with the axon terminals. In the axon terminals there is a knob-like structure which is called as a synaptic knob, and the synaptic knob contains a vesicles. So in that vesicles they are having a neurotransmitters, and the famous neurotransmitter in the conduction of the signals is called as an acetylcholine. Okay, so if the axon have the sheath like this, it is called as a myelin sheath. If there will be no sheath, it is called as a non-myelinated or unmyelinated neurons. If the axons containing the myelinated sheath, we are calling them as the myelinated neuron. If the axon not having this myelin sheath, we are calling that particular neuron as an unmyelinated neuron. And one myelin sheath is connected with the another myelin sheath, and this nodes is called as a nodes of Ranvier. Okay, and the cells present here in this myelin sheath is called as a Schwann cells. Okay, so this is the basic structure of this neuron. Okay, and here there is a synaptic transmission. Okay, so this is the end part of the axon terminal. So in this axon terminals, the neurons of other dendrites is going to attach with this neuron. Okay, so this is a functional junction between two neurons where the information is transmitted. So synaptic transmission is very important. So if I touch here, if I touch you, you immediately sense that someone is touching me. Okay, so how is that possible? And immediately within a fraction of a second you would respond to that signal. How is that so? Because of the signal passed from one neuron to another neuron, it will be reached to the central nervous system, and immediately with the help of the peripheral nervous system it will respond to it. Okay, so that is why the synaptic transmission is very important. Okay, so the functional junction between two neurons where the information is transmitted. Okay, so the information is transmitted there, and the two neurons is getting connected with each other, and that junction is called as a synaptic transmission. Okay, so first process will be this chemical synapse. So we are having a chemical synapse and the electrical synapse. Okay, when compared to the chemical synapse, the electrical synapse are very faster in nature. Okay, see, chemical synapse process, how there will be the involvement of presynaptic neuron. Okay, there is a presynaptic neuron. So that is a presynaptic neuron. They are synthesizing a neurotransmitter. Okay, so this presynaptic neuron is responsible for synthesizing neurotransmitter, and they are storing in the synaptic vesicles. Okay, so that is why I said the synaptic vesicles in the axon terminals, they are the storehouse of the neurotransmitter, that is called as a presynaptic neuron. Now, arrival of an action potential. Now, whenever the action potential has been created, it depolarizes the presynaptic membrane. How it is getting depolarized? Who? the presynaptic membrane is getting depolarized, and after that voltage gated calcium channels are opening. Okay, the calcium open. Whenever the calcium channels are open, the calciums immediately came out from the channel, and the calcium influx triggers the neurotransmitter. So because of the exocytosis of this calcium, there is a stimulus occurs, so that the synaptic vesicles break down, and it will be bind with the presynaptic membrane. It will be, soon as it binds with the membrane, it will be releasing the neurotransmitters which it stored. Okay, that process is called as an exocytosis. Now the neurotransmitter diffusion, how is it is getting to how is it is getting diffused? So it is crosses the synaptic cleft to reach the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, so there is a synaptic cleft that is reaching the, see, this is the neuron which is the presynaptic neuron, and who is receiving the signal is called as a postsynaptic neuron, and this region is called as a synaptic cleft. Okay, so at this cleft all these vesicles will bind to this cleft. Whenever it is binding the neurotransmitter, it is getting released, so that it is crossing the synaptic cleft. Now it is reaching the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, now what is happening in case of postsynaptic neuron? Now it contains a ligand gated ion channel. So what if in case of presynaptic neuron, the action potential makes the voltage gated calcium channels to open, and in postsynaptic neuron they are containing the ligand gated ion channels. Now the neurotransmitter binds, whenever the neurotransmitter bind with the postsynaptic neuron, immediately after it binds, it makes the ligand gated ion channels to open. As the channels are opening, the ion flow, the flow of ions will taking place. Now the flow of ions create the postsynaptic potential. Okay, so that potential may excite the neurotransmitters, may inhibit the release of the neurotransmitters. Okay, so if it is an excitatory neurotransmitter, it depolarizes the membrane. If the neurotransmitters released sufficiently, we have to stop the release of neurotransmitters, and that is called as an inhibitory neurotransmitter. If the release of neurotransmitter has to be increased, the membrane has to be hyperpolarized. Okay, so this is very, very, very important. Now, what are all the examples of this neurotransmitter? So the examples of neurotransmitter will be this acetylcholine. It may be excitatory or inhibitory. Okay, but the inhibitory neurotransmitter will be the GABA, that is GABA and the glycine. Okay, fine. So these are all the examples of the neurotransmitters. Okay, so in this class we have completed the muscular system as well as the neural system, neural control and coordination, short answer questions. I'll meet you with the short answer questions for the next chapter in the next class. Okay, thank you so much.